Let's talk about institutional investors. The financial big dogs, Charles Schwab, Citadel, Fidelity, and others are launching a crypto exchange called EDX Markets. Now, we've witnessed a growing amount of traditional finance companies getting involved in crypto in some way, and now it seems that some of the largest are jumping in head first. EDXM's board of directors said in a statement, crypto is a $1 trillion global asset class with over 300 million participants and pent-up demand for millions more. Unlocking this demand requires a platform that can meet the needs of both retail traders and institutional investors with high compliance and security standards. Will, I'm going to kick this one down to you. You did a great tease for this before the break. What do you think? Do you think these guys are going to be able to achieve what they set out to do?
This story is for the boomers and for the people who are into really boring angles of crypto, but it's extremely important. So, sage wisdom, if you're in the space long enough, you know the stories to pick up on. There's an exchange called Bakkt that launched back in 2017, 2018. These had tried to launch for few times and didn't quite get off the ground. I think it finally made it like in 2020. It's kind of like the little engine that could make it up the hill finally and launched. And it was to basically no one caring, even though there was so much money put into the project, so much time, so many institutional investors pushed into it. And now, to my knowledge, no one's really talking about it, right? We're talking about FTX. We're not really talking about Bakkt. And the reason for this is because it's a very crowded room you're walking into. No matter how many institutional investors want to get in the doors, no matter how many traditional TradFi people want to build projects in crypto, it's pretty crowded already. Like, there's a lot of chains. There's a lot of people building DEXs. There's a lot of sexes out there. Binance is huge. FTX is huge. Coinbase is huge. It's really hard to build something like this. What these guys are trying to do is use their TradFi knowledge and build an exchange that makes sense for institutional investors, makes sense for retail. And I'm saying it's going to be an uphill battle. That being said, the people that they do have on board with this are very interesting, especially Fidelity. Fidelity is well known for its interest in the Bitcoin space. They started looking into Bitcoin back in 2014, 2013. They even started mining back in 2014. And a lot of the prominent people in the Bitcoin space actually were Fidelity employees at one point, like Nick Carter and Amanda Fabiano, just to name a few. There's a Fidelity gang, quote unquote, out there in crypto. And they're a lot of times just original Fidelity folk that went out into space, are now VCs, executives, etc. So if you had to pick a team and you had to pick a few companies to get behind something like this and move into the space so late, this is who you want. Last note on before I throw it up to Wendy. This integration does look really promising because a lot of these accounts are already set up to be integrated live with people who might not have exposure to this, but probably do want exposure and want exposure through trusted parties, right? They don't want to make a Coinbase account. They don't want to make an FTX account because they don't know who that is. They want to use their traditional broker, and they'll do it if they have the option. They'll buy Bitcoin if they have the option. Wendy, I'll throw it up to you.
So I do think that this is very positive news in the long scheme of things. And one of the reasons why is we do know that we are going to get heavy regulations when it comes to stablecoins. And I do remember some of the things that I read that these stablecoins do have to have some sort of custody or be backed by a bank, something along those lines. And I know that's not all of the information, but I think it's going to be important to get big players like this in the space as much as I dislike it. And I also wanted to comment, I'm currently in the process of reorganizing my YouTube channel. And I remember 2018, 2019, that was all we talked about was Bakkt. That was it. Is this a back pump? Is it a back dump? What's happening? And it's just so funny because that was the title of so many of my videos. And I'm like, oh my God, how lame were we back in 2018, 2019? That's all we had.
Nice
that
pun.
Yeah, it was literally like that was the news. So this is, I don't necessarily think this is going to be like Bakkt. I think like this is going to be a little bit more organized. But again, we're going to need big players like this to come into the space as much as I hate it.
So I think that one of the interesting things about this, we're talking about the parts about this that are good. One party for whom this is bad is Coinbase. Coinbase, which went public last year, is another one of those companies that at the time came out with a very high IPO price. And I remember there was at least one particular group of analysts out there who were saying, hey, this is about 90% too high relative to what the true market value of this thing is going to be. Because if these markets progress like traditional markets have, then we will see a race to the bottom in terms of prices. And this will become a very, very, very competitive space. I think that really that's what this says to me, is that this is becoming a very, very, very competitive space. And it's worth noting that really there are two different spaces. There are the US regulated companies, of which Coinbase is sort of the champion from the world of crypto. And then there are the unregulated spaces that, primarily do not service US customers because they don't want to be under those rules. And, and you'll notice that the non-US based exchanges like Binance and FTX are certainly seeing significantly more success than the companies like Coinbase who have bet on the US regulated path. So it's an interesting note. They could be the winner of a much smaller sector, but still the winner in a big sense for themselves. But that would come at the cost of Coinbase, which has already suffered quite a bit. Will, down to you.
Yeah, I agree that there's going to be a race to the bottom. I guess the question is when does that happen and how fast does it happen? I think there's going to be some movement there, but it takes so long and the pie is still so big. There's so many people to onboard still. Bitcoin's really small. I think we forget about that. And something like this definitely broadens the horizons. It brings in millions of people. Fidelity is the largest 401k provider for companies out there. Imagine all those people just getting into Bitcoin just a little bit. There's some hopium for you today on Taco Tuesday. When do you give it to you for last take on the story?
I'm just kind of curious to see, are they going to offer FDIC insurance? How are they going to operate? Are they going to be operating similar to a Coinbase, similar to an FTX US? So I think that the story is important, and I think it's worth following and speaking about, because I feel like the standards that this particular exchange is going to get held to is going to end up becoming an industry standard for crypto as a whole. So at least we'll be able to get some sort of clarity as to what the crypto exchanges need to do, or what, I don't know. Hopefully. We'll see. We'll see.